Ready to listen to the next chapter, The Magnificent Seven. Okay. Yeah, okay. Start now. Bangladesh is an Asian country of more than 130 million people on landmass, the size of Iowa. It once was a land abundant with tropical rainforests, a diversity of plants and animal species, and a bounty of natural resources. In 1900s, the land was denuded of its forests by foreign interests that came and went, and the land was ravaged by war and the results of poor land tenure police. Absent the trees and vegetation that once had thrived, seasonal floods took an even greater toll on the land and the people. Listed by the United Nations as the second poorest country in the world in the late 1970s, Bangladesh became the recipient of another kind of flood, a flood of aid, and within a short time had become almost completely dependent on aid from outside sources. Bangladesh became to have a global reputation as needy and helpless, a giant begging bowl of a nation, and within Bangladesh itself, the people came to see themselves that way too. Bangladesh had become convinced that were helpless people dependent on others for even minimal survival. In what had become a common cycle of disintegrations of villages and communities, the people in villages near the district of Sylhet, I don't know whether I pronounce correctly, were giving up, making plans to leave the region and look for subsistence work elsewhere, or send the men off to larger towns and cities to find work and send money home to support their indigent families. Sylhet is in the northern hill region of Bangladesh, just high enough to escape the floods that submerge the surrounding lowlands periodically each year. The dry hills had surrendered long ago to an invasive jungle of prickly, scrubby brush, a plant whose only fruit is poison berries. The plants, all tangled together, look like a massive briar patch, inaccessible, dangerous, and thick. An overgrown area had been deemed government land and was off limits for development by local farmers. But the scrubby, poisonous plants that grew there kept spreading and invading the small plots of land, and the villagers would farm, taking over the crops and poisoning the land. For generations, the villagers had scraped a meager existence from the small plots of land the government had given them, but even that was becoming an impossible task. Young people had turned to begging on the roads and stealing. Crime was at an all-time high. So it came to be that the villagers had given up on the difficult, unproductive land and were ready to take drastic action. Many were prepared to abandon the village and move their families elsewhere, or abandon hope for an intact family, and instead send the men elsewhere to find jobs. The conversation among villagers was urgent and pragmatic. Where could they move or send the men that would allow them to grow enough or earn enough to provide for the families? There was also talk for asking for US financial aid to enable them to buy food and other goods without work at all. They had given up. They were tired and they were resigned. They felt the answer must be somewhere else and with someone else. They felt they just couldn't make it on their own. About this time, the Hunger Project was beginning to work actively in Bangladesh. There were plenty of independent relief agencies in Bangladesh already doing heroic and inspiring work, but what seems to be making sustainable improvements were the initiatives that came from the Bangladeshis themselves. The now famous Grameen Bank, created by Dr. Muhammad Yunus, is a microcredit program providing small business loans to hardworking, cash-poor women. And BRAC, a village development initiative created by Bangladesh leader Faisal Abid, had created significant success where outsiders unfamiliar with the people had failed. These successes and experiences in other regions had affirmed our conviction that the Bangladesh people were the key to their own development, and that outside aid was systematically and psychologically turning them into beggars instead of the authors of their own future. As the first step in the process of forging an effective partnership, together we looked deeply into the Bangladesh culture, their attitudes and beliefs about themselves, their resignation and hopelessness. It became clear that after so long subsisting on it, the people had lost touch with any sense of their own competence or any vision of their country as capable of success. In our meetings together, the Bangladesh leaders determined that the things that was missing, which if provided would enable these people to become self-reliant and self-sufficient, was a vision of their own strength and capabilities. The Hunger Project committed as a partner to develop a program designed to enable the Bangladeshis to reconnect with a vision for themselves and their country, with an awareness of the available assets and strategies to put the ideas into action. Out of that commitment and partnership came the Vision, Commitment and Action Workshop. It called upon participants to engage in a series of group discussion and visualizations, exercise enabling them to imagine and envision a self-reliant, self-sufficient Bangladesh, the healthy, thriving Bangladesh they had fought 4 years ago in their struggle for independence. This is remind me something that's the person who initiated the credits for the women who are hardworking, give them money to do the micro loans. So this is something that is a very good initiative, because if we keep feeding the people, then the people will have to rely on the aid forever, which is not very healthy. So the idea of like teaching them to fish is sustainable. It's going to be very sustainable, because even if there were no aids, but there were no help or support, the people can think, or they can self-reliant by having resources that are provided by the, what's the name of that person just now, Dr. Muhammad Yunus. So the loan actually enabled the people to do their own business as a capital. For example, farmers, they can buy the seed for the rice plants or something like that. So this is a very good project, and I do believe in teaching the people how to fish instead of giving them the fish, so that the technique or the mindset or the money that we give them is able to compound or grow on itself, and therefore is a sustainable. Yeah. So I this is a very good it's a very good project. Okay, shall we continue? In Bangladesh, because there are so many people, when you call any kind of a meeting, hundreds or even thousands people can show up. People even gather in a village park. and squares. In Dhaka, the capital, there is a public park that holds easily 1,000 people or more, and that is where we launched some of the early vision, commitment, and action workshop. We publicized the meeting, and at the appointed time, the park was packed with people. If you can picture it, this is no beautiful pastoral retreat, but a park with barely a blade of grass, packed with hundreds of these moss brown beautiful people seated on the ground very close together, lots of babies and small children, people of all ages sitting tentatively listening for whatever we could offer them that might be helpful. The program opened with music, a few introduction and inspired words by community leaders, and some initial interactive exercise to bring the crowd's energy and focus to the task at hand. Then we began the program, asking everybody to close their eyes and envision what a self-reliant, self-sufficient Bangladesh would look like. What would it look like if Bangladesh were a country that was exporting its finest quality goods? What would it be like if Bangladesh were known for its art and music and poetry? What if Bangladesh were a contributing member of the global community instead of the big recipients? Wow, this is something they give the vision that enabled them to open the heart. As a human, we have a dignity. So if they can be contributing instead of keep receiving, then that makes them feel that dignity is, is retrieved. They are no longer a burden to society, but they can contribute. This is something, when I read about it, I do feel my heart, is enlightens. I want to be part of it. So this is a very good speech. Including Bangladesh women, Bangladesh men, and Bangladesh young people were a contribution to society. What would that look like? At first, people sat there very still, eyes closed, expressionless, shoulder to shoulder in the park. A hush settled over the crowd, and the sea of faces remained still. Eyes closed in thought. After a few minutes, I noticed tears streaming down one man's face, and then another and another. People were still sitting with their eyes closed. People are sitting and imagining what would it be like if they can contribute to the society. The heart actually opens up. For one moment, that as a human, they become very useful. They can contribute to others. And I notice these feelings in each of us, in human. We want to contribute in some ways, and so that makes us a human, Yeah. So this is something very beautiful. I can imagine that the scene is very beautiful, where people are closing their eyes and they imagine how they can be a contributor to the society instead of burden to the society. In this crowd of more than 1,000, it was hundreds of weeping faces. It was as if they had never in their lifetime even thought they could be self-reliant or self-sufficient or a contributing nation, that they had never imagined they could be a nation that made a difference for other nations, that they could be a nation that stood out, that had the qualities that people admire, a unique role to play in the world community. It was a brave new thought. When we completed this visioning meditation, and people shared with one another the vision they had seen for their village, their family, their school, their home, their business, their children, and their grandchildren, the vision became rich and real, palpable and exhilarating. A new future was born. In the next section of the workshop, the participants were invited to commit to their vision. They were asked not merely to envision, but to commit to being the people who would make that vision real. You could see them drop the anxiety and fear, letting go of the sense of lack and inadequacy, and step up to their own creation and commit to it. In that exercise, you could see people's posture and countenance change. People seemed to visibly strengthen. Their sense of resolve and determination was contagious, and the impossible seemed possible. They finally broke into small groups to collaborate and design the actions they would take to fulfill their commitment to make their vision real. The actions were practical, local, doable, but in alignment with their new commitment in service of their vision. People seem to re-see themselves, the family, the village, the country as able, resourceful and potent, self-reliant and self-sufficient. Soon, these workshops were being repeated in gatherings all over, some in cities, others in villages, some just within families, and every Sunday for thousands in the square at Dhaka. Now it happened that on a trip up to Dhaka, one of the leaders of a village in Sylhet attended a vision, commitment and action workshop nearly by mistake. His name was Zilu. He was visiting his cousin in the city, and this cousin invited him to come along to the park to see what this workshop was all about. Zilu didn't want to go. He wanted to talk to his cousin about moving his family from Sylhet in with his cousin to share the home so the family could leave the desolate village, hoping that Zilu could get work in the city and give them a chance for a new life. His cousin prevailed, however, and they attended the workshop together. Zilu was completely captivated by the workshop experience and his awakening to his own commitment to his village and the surrounding community. He stayed in Dhaka another 3 days and participated in a training to be a workshop leader himself. He then took the training and the vision back to Sylhet. Back home, he got his 6 closest male friends together and delivered the workshop to them. With a shared vision now, an unlimited commitment to develop the human and natural resources of their own region. The 7 men came up with an idea and created a plan for a new agribusiness venture designed to bring the whole region out of poverty into self-reliance and ultimately into prosperity. They call it the Khauti Project, a bold step for self-reliance. I arrived in Sylhet just 4 months later, in April of 1994, with 17 travelers who were major donors to the Hunger Project. Zilu had invited us there to show us the progress he and his friends had made in the area and to thank us for the contribution we were taking to his country and his people. He and his friends, whom he became to call the Magnificent Seven, told us the story of the region's transformation, showed us the results. Well, Zilu shared how he had returned from the workshop at Dhaka that December day, inspired to look with new eyes at the resources he and his people had before them and determined to develop a vision, a commitment and a plan of action. Once his 6 friends joined him in this commitment, the next step was to look at the resources they already had but had previously overlooked. There, at the edge of town, was the fallow, hard-scrabble government land covered with poison berry brambles. The 7 men met with government officials and got permission to clear 17 acres of the tangled vegetation that had taken over the land. They went to the community for the money needed to buy equipment and supplies. People drew from the meager savings to support the initiative, and the men were able to collect the needed thousands of taka. And about $750, finally they delivered their own version of the vision, commitment and action workshop. to 600 people in the village of 18,000. Those 600 people got to work building a route along the edge of the land and starting the clearing efforts. Impressed with their vision, clarity and commitment, the government gave them 100 acres more to develop. They trained the young people who had turned to begging and crime to cultivate and farm instead. They trained destitute women, many of them widows, to farm. In clearing the land, they were surprised to discover a previously unknown lake and small stream abundant with fish. The entire area was now under cultivation, providing food, fish, training and deployment for hundreds of people. All 18,000 people in the immediate area had benefited from this activity, and an area that had been wrecked with poverty was now becoming self-sufficient and beginning to flourish. The crime rate had dropped by an astounding 70%. We walked the fields with Zilu and the rest of the Magnificent Seven and visited the fisheries and the training fields. We were overwhelmed by the people's vitality, joy, and success. I realized as I walked with them that they had accomplished this feat with almost no help from the outside. The intelligence, the muscle, and the capacity to put it all together, but had lost touch with those resources and capabilities in the climate of third world aid, and the hopelessness and presumed incompetence that had come with it. Once they were inspired to see themselves differently, to see themselves as strong, creative, and capable, their commitment knew no limits. Success was inevitable. I want to share with you this like mindset or newly found passions of ignite of the lights within the hearts of human. Okay, when they knew that they have a vision, what they can be capable of achieving, they can work towards it and committed towards the vision and mission that they've newly found as something that, yes, for one moment I am a human and I'm capable. The sky is the limit. So this kind of like ignites where once we will feel hopeless, useless, there's no return. The moment you found that ignite in your hearts is that I call it the sparks, the fire burning inside. You can become limitless, and then you need to find that fire in you. When you want to change your life, you want to be successful, turn your hopeless into a fighting spirit, into fire to be successful in life. I found this fire when I read this Tony Robbins book. This Tony Robbins book, actually the title, I still remember vividly the color. The color is green color, and the title is Awaken the Giant Within. The moment I read the book, one flip to another flip, I found this inspiration from Anthony Robbins that he was working as a janitor before he becomes multi-millionaire transformational coach. And when I read the story, it reminds me of myself. At that time I was working as a maid in Singapore. When I read that story, if he can do it, so can I. So I start to have this ability in myself. I start to see myself as a very capable. I can do it. I can change my mindset as long as I have the future, the vision that I want to be. So I want to be like him. I want to be like Anthony Robbins. I want to be inspirational to the people, and I want to impact people's life. So this is the kind of book that when I read, I feel my goosebump, coming out. This is the something that I was missing, before I knew that Anthony Robbins. I knew exactly what is my strong why. My strong why is to impact my family's life. I know that my family's life has been poor and has been a subject of gossip topic for my neighbors. And I knew that they are the reasons that I must make myself successful in order for me to support my parents and claim their dignity, to stand firm and high, that I am a human and I want that respect too. So that was the things that awakened the giant within that book. It was awakened my vision and my mission, that I am a human, I have hope, I'm not hopeless. I don't want to be the mate. I don't want to be made forever, and I want to change. I want to change my life. And that's where I started to train myself and read more book. Even though I don't understand, I just keep reading with one newspaper, you know, on my right side, and the left side is dictionary. And every time, every single words I read and what is the meaning, I go into the dictionary. So that's how I learned English. Actually, my English was not very good because back then my employer is a Baba, so they speak Malay. Most daily communication is in Malay. So I knew that if I want to speak a good English, I have to learn from the newspaper. And I every day after finish my work, finish my cleaning the house, I will start to read newspaper and with my dictionary in the other hand. So this is something, because if I want to learn, I need to improve myself. I need to start from the language, because I believe if I don't understand English, how am I going to continue my school? Because when I read the Awaken the Giant Within, I know that I want to continue my dream to further my studies. I want to take my O level, I want to take my diploma, so that I can upgrade myself, because I knew that the only passport for me to upgrade myself from mid to higher level is the knowledge, is the education. So that is the, you know, at that time, that is the only thing my focus is, to upgrade myself in my education and get diploma and work in office. That was the motivation that I have. If I have work in office, from then I can climb again. At that time, I just, you know, like one at a time. So I just aim from O level to diploma. So from diploma, work in office. The moment I work in office, I have a different level of dreams. So yes, this is the things that, you know, it reminds me of my own experience, where the moment you have the sparks in your heart that you can be useful, you will take what it takes to reach there, and you will keep your vision and your mission in your head. So whatever people say, you just don't care, and then you just want to move forward. There's no turning back. Yeah, that's what I want to share in this book. And this video has been quite long, so I will just stop here, and I will continue the next chapter next time. All right, okay, see you then.